We have a consumer alert tonight. GM is recalling nearly 600,000 full-size U.S. trucks and SUVs. The company saying that the V8 engines can fail without warning, raising the risk of a crash.
You trusted them with your family's safety, your savings, your loyalty, and they sold it all for profit. GM didn't just cut corners. They cut your trust open and left it bleeding on the highway. Leaked documents prove it.
Manufacturing defects in the connecting rod and crankshaft engine components can lead to engine damage. So this recall now includes the listed V8 engine models that you see here. To fix the problem, dealers will inspect the engine for repair or replacement free of charge, and owners will receive a notification letter from the company.
Executives knew about dangerous defects years before you ever got that recall notice. They calculated the cost of fixing your car against the cost of your life and decided your loyalty was cheaper. The company that promised safety first built an empire on silence and spin. How long were you driving with danger under your seat? Who inside GM buried the truth? And what happens when your own car company turns its back on you? The leak. For years, you may have had a nagging feeling that something was off. The steering felt strange. The engine ticked louder than it should. The dealer shrugged when you raised a concern. And somehow, the problem always became your burden. Now, the leaked evidence proves that those instincts were not paranoia. General Motors knew about these issues and deliberately kept customers in the dark. Documents revealed that managers flagged dangerous faults years before recalls were announced. Emails showed cost-cutting decisions where executives debated whether it was cheaper to pay fines than to fix cars. It was never about protecting you. It was about protecting the bottom line. The betrayal stings because buyers trusted the brand. Families purchased Chevrolets and GMCs with pride, believing in a legacy of American manufacturing and safety. Owners were told that GM stood for reliability and strength. But behind the curtain, that strength was a facade built on silence and spin. Instead of standing behind the people who built a company with their hard-earned dollars, GM doubled down on denial. And when the truth slipped out, it was not the company that admitted fault. It was whistleblowers and investigators who forced daylight into the shadows. And this was only the beginning, because the leaked documents revealed more than lies. They hinted at dangerous defects still hiding on the road. Hidden defects. That shiny GM Sport utility vehicle in your driveway, the one you use to carry groceries, take your kids to school, and head off on road trips, might carry a defect the company knew about but refused to act on. Faulty airbag sensors, engine failures, braking issues, even dangerous electrical glitches were all listed in internal memos. Rather than act immediately, GM often delayed recalls until pressure became overwhelming. Some cars remained on highways for years before owners received any notice, leaving families vulnerable every time they buckled in. Imagine trusting your vehicle to protect you in a crash, only to learn later that the very system designed to save your life could fail. Imagine paying monthly for a car loan on a truck that might suddenly lose power on the interstate. These are not rare accidents. They are repeated stories gathered from thousands of frustrated and frightened owners. GM did not rush to correct them. They minimized, they downplayed, and they waited. And during that waiting game, people kept driving, unaware of the danger riding beneath their seats. The most chilling detail is not just that defects existed, but that they were hidden. Customers asked, dealers dismissed, and corporate offices sat on knowledge that could have saved lives. Loyalty was rewarded with risk. But when drivers turned to warranties for protection, the betrayal cut even deeper. If this hits close to home, hit subscribe and drop your story in the comments. Have you felt betrayed by GM or another brand? Broken warranties. Imagine dropping $40,000 on a Chevy, financing it over years, carefully budgeting because the salesman reassured you with a warranty. That warranty was supposed to be a promise. It was supposed to mean peace of mind. Instead, thousands of drivers discovered that when their engines seized, when transmissions failed, or when electronics melted down, GM slammed the door in their faces. Claims were denied over technicalities, repairs delayed until after coverage expired, or owners simply told the failure was their fault. For families, this was not an inconvenience. It was financial devastation. Parents emptied savings accounts to cover repairs they were promised would be free. Retirees stretched fixed incomes to replace critical components that should have been protected. Small business owners lost weeks of income while waiting for trucks to be fixed, only to be told the warranty did not apply. What good is a warranty if the company refuses to honor it? GM's behavior turned a guarantee into a gamble, and loyal customers always lost. And loyalty was not just financial, it was emotional. Generations who swore by GM, who drove nothing else, suddenly felt abandoned. It is one thing for a company to make a mistake. It is another to profit from broken promises. And as if ignoring warranties was not enough, GM found yet another way to squeeze value from its drivers. This time, it was not about repairs. It was about your privacy. Data for sale. Every turn you took, every mile you drove, every stop at a coffee shop or late-night commute home, GM was watching. Modern cars collect vast amounts of data, from speed and braking patterns to exact location histories. Instead of treating that information as private, GM treated it as profit. Drivers learned that their movements were packaged and sold to insurance companies, advertisers, and third-party brokers, often without clear consent. Your daily routine became a revenue stream, and your privacy was collateral damage. For many, this was the final straw. It is one thing to suffer a defect, another to be denied a warranty, but discovering that your loyalty was repaid by selling your personal life is a violation that cuts deeper. It means GM did not see you as a valued customer. They saw you as a product. They mined your behavior the way a tech company mines clicks, turning trusted vehicles into surveillance machines on wheels. And while they made money, you faced higher insurance premiums, targeted ads, and the unsettling knowledge that your car was spying on you. This betrayal was not about a single defect or a single repair. It was systemic, intentional, and driven by greed. And when the truth emerged, it became clear that customers were not paranoid at all. They were victims of a company willing to trade their safety, their money, and even their privacy for profit. But the story does not end with betrayal. It moves deeper into the strategies and cover-ups that allowed GM to keep the truth hidden for so long. Behind closed doors, while you trusted the brand, their executives joked about costs, delays, and keeping you in the dark. Behind the polished commercials and patriotic slogans were boardroom conversations that treated safety as a line item and loyalty as expendable. Memos revealed discussions where leaders weighed the cost of redesigning defective parts against the projected payout in lawsuits. If fixing the problem was more expensive than letting it ride, the fix was ignored. They gambled with human lives as if they were poker chips, banking on the odds that only a small percentage of customers would sue. Even more disturbing was the callous tone. Engineers raised concerns, but executives reduced them to financial equations. A family's safety became a projected liability. Trust became a column on a balance sheet. Instead of fear at being exposed, they showed confidence because they had perfected the art of burying bad news. The company culture rewarded silence and punished accountability. You were never supposed to see those conversations, and if not for leaked documents, you never would have. The executives' arrogance was chilling, but arrogance alone was not enough to keep the truth hidden. They needed a strategy to manage the public once defects inevitably surfaced. The recall mirage. Instead of protecting families, GM played public relations games. Recalls are supposed to be a red flag, a sign that something went wrong and needs urgent attention. But GM turned recalls into smoke and mirrors. They delayed announcements, limited the scope, or released notices so quietly that many owners never heard about them until years later. Dangerous faults were described in the blandest language possible, minimizing risks that could be fatal. A broken airbag became a deployment irregularity. An engine stalling on the highway became performance concerns. This strategy worked because most customers do not read technical bulletins in detail. They trusted that if a recall sounded minor, it was not urgent. GM counted on that trust, issuing recalls late at night, over weekends, or buried among dozens of other announcements. The fewer headlines, the better. And while millions of families drove cars with hidden risks, GM congratulated itself on managing reputation exposure. By turning recalls into a mirage, GM made danger look small, while the risks were anything but. They transformed what should have been a moment of accountability into a tool of manipulation. And when owners finally tried to fight back, they discovered another barrier designed to keep them powerless. Rigged by lawyers. If you tried to fight back, GM's lawyers were ready with loopholes, fine print, and a wall of corporate muscle you could never match. Courtrooms became battlefields where ordinary families stood against teams of high-priced attorneys whose only job was to make claims disappear. Warranty contracts were written with vague language that gave GM outs, leaving customers baffled and broke. Cases dragged on for years, not because justice required it, but because delay favored the company. By the time rulings came down, many families had already given up or gone bankrupt trying to keep up with costs. Even when customers managed to win, settlements were often sealed, preventing other drivers from knowing the extent of GM's deception. Lawyers argued technicalities, claimed defects were normal wear and tear, or suggested drivers were to blame for malfunctions they could never have prevented. The message was clear. GM had the resources to outlast you, no matter how right you were. This legal fortress did more than block justice. It discouraged others from trying. Word spread that suing GM was pointless, that the system was stacked against regular people, and as customers lost faith in the courts, a new hope emerged, but one GM worked hard to crush before it reached the public. silenced whistleblowers. Engineers tried to warn you. GM tried to bury them. Internal voices who raised alarms were sidelined, demoted, or dismissed. Whistleblowers described meetings where they pleaded for safety changes, only to be told they were not team players. Some reported retaliation, blacklisting, and threats of ruined careers. When insiders spoke to regulators, GM's lobbyists went to work to discredit them. When they went to the press, the company unleashed statements painting them as disgruntled employees. The goal was simple: keep the public from hearing the truth. This culture of fear meant dangerous flaws stayed hidden. Instead of cars being fixed, problems lingered on assembly lines, waiting for buyers who trusted the badge. While GM silenced its own people, customers unknowingly drove vehicles that could stall, burn, or fail to protect them in a crash. And when those same customers returned to dealerships with complaints, they were told everything was fine. Whistleblowers were not just silenced, they were sacrificed to keep profits flowing. And that silence had a cost measured in broken cars, broken trust, and broken families. But once enough insiders spoke up, the facade began to crumble. And that is when the scandal spilled out into the open, igniting lawsuits, public outrage, and government scrutiny. Courtroom justice. Thousands of owners are dragging GM into court, demanding the money, safety, and dignity they were denied. After years of stalled recalls and denied warranty claims, the courtroom has become the only place left where betrayed customers can fight back. Class action suits are multiplying, each one representing drivers who believed in GM's promises, only to be left with broken vehicles and empty wallets. These cases are not about minor defects. They involve engines seizing, airbags failing, and transmissions collapsing long before their time. The power of these lawsuits lies not only in compensation, but in exposure. Once a case reaches discovery, internal documents can no longer be hidden in boardrooms. Evidence that executives hoped would stay buried becomes public record. Judges have begun ordering GM to release communications that reveal who knew what and when. The results are damning, painting a picture of a corporation more interested in deflecting blame than fixing problems. Families across the country are pinning their hopes on these trials. They want justice, but more than that, they want the truth acknowledged in a forum GM cannot control. And as the cases pile up, GM's carefully built defenses are starting to crack, giving customers a sliver of vindication. But lawsuits are only words on paper until they are given life by the people telling their stories. Voices of owners. From retirees losing savings to parents stranded on highways, GM's betrayal has faces, and they are telling their stories. Across the country, town halls, news segments, and social media feeds are filled with the voices of those who lived the consequences of corporate greed. A retired couple in Ohio spoke of spending their pension on repairs that should have been covered under warranty. A young mother in Texas described the terror of her car, stalling on a freeway with her children in the backseat. These are not abstract numbers. They are people, and their voices are shattering the myth of GM's reliability. The emotional impact of these testimonies is undeniable. Customers once proud to own GM vehicles now describe humiliation, fear, and anger. They talk about sleepless nights, wondering if the next breakdown could cause an accident. They talk about losing trust not only in GM, but in the entire idea of corporate responsibility. These voices cut through legal jargon and financial reports. They force the world to look at GM's actions through human eyes. As more owners step forward, it becomes harder for the company to silence the narrative. Every new story chips away at the fortress of denial, showing the scandal is not just legal or financial, it is personal. Hearing owners speak stripped the scandal of abstraction. It was no longer numbers, but names, no longer statistics, but stories. Each testimony pierced through corporate messaging, proving that loyalty betrayed is not faceless, but heartbreakingly personal and undeniably human. And once personal stories captured public attention, the pressure on regulators became impossible to ignore. If these stories shock you, subscribe now, because what's coming next is even bigger, and you'll want the truth before anyone else. Don't let GM or any automaker control the narrative. Stay here, where the truth comes first. Regulators step in. The Federal Trade Commission, state attorneys general, and congressional committees are circling GM. After years of hesitation, government agencies are finally stepping into the fight. The FTC is investigating whether GM misled customers in its data collection practices, while attorneys general in multiple states are filing lawsuits accusing the company of deception and unfair trade. Congress has begun holding hearings, demanding answers about why safety recalls were delayed and whether executives covered up critical information. For customers, the question is not whether regulators act, but whether they act in time. Many remember how long it took for previous scandals to see meaningful punishment. They remember the ignition switch disaster that killed drivers before GM admitted fault. They remember settlements that sounded large, but never felt like justice for families who suffered. Now, the fear is that history may repeat itself, that regulators will act too late, with penalties too small to matter. The sight of officials pressing GM executives is long overdue. Families who carried this burden Britain deserve to see lawmakers finally ask the hard questions, yet suspicion lingers. Will accountability be real this time, or just another carefully staged performance? Still, the sight of government watchdogs finally acknowledging the depth of GM's deception offers hope. It means the outrage of loyal customers is impossible to ignore. Yet government action is only one piece of the puzzle. The markets, too, have delivered their own ruthless judgment. Wall Street's verdict: GM's stock is sliding, warranty costs exploding, and investors are waking up to the scale of the disaster. Quarterly reports show billions evaporating as recalls mount and warranty claims overwhelm budgets. The very strategies GM used to avoid paying customers are now backfiring, costing more in lawsuits, penalties, and lost sales than fixing the problems would have in the first place. Shareholders who once cheered record profits are asking hard questions, and Wall Street analysts are downgrading GM's future outlook. But amid the financial panic, one truth remains: customers paid first. They paid with lost savings, unsafe vehicles, and destroyed trust long before markets noticed. The drop in stock price is a visible wound for investors, but the invisible wounds have already been carried by families stranded on highways, workers whose paychecks went to repairs, and parents who feared for their children's safety. For decades, GM convinced the public that loyalty would be rewarded. Now, the verdict from Wall Street confirms what customers already knew. Betrayal has a cost, and it is finally coming due. The collapse of investor confidence shows the damage is no longer contained. Markets may care about numbers, but customers care about lives. The decline in GM's financial strength is visible on trading screens, yet the real collapse began long ago in homes across America, when loyalty dissolved under the weight of betrayal. And if customers, regulators, and markets are all turning on GM, the ripple effects across the entire auto industry are about to explode. Rivals Pounce, Toyota, Ford, Tesla, they are already rolling out the red carpet for GM's angry customers, and many are walking away for good. Auto companies live and die on brand loyalty, and GM's scandal has cracked open a treasure chest of disillusioned buyers. Rivals wasted no time launching targeted ad campaigns, trade-in bonuses, and extended warranties designed to lure betrayed drivers. Toyota's message is clear: we build reliable cars you can trust. Ford is promising extra coverage for defect-worried families. Tesla is highlighting its over-the-air fixes as a contrast to GM's delayed recalls. The shift is not just marketing, it is migration. Dealers in multiple states are reporting surges of trade-ins where GM vehicles are being swapped for competitors. Online forums once filled with brand-loyal chatter are now buzzing with owners describing how they will never return to GM showrooms. Every lost sale is not just one car, it is decades of loyalty erased in a single decision. That erosion of trust cannot be fixed with a discount or a new model. Competitors see opportunity, but customers see choice. Walking away from GM isn't simply about punishing betrayal, it's about finding safety, reliability, and respect elsewhere. Every new purchase is both a rejection of deceit and an embrace of better promises. And while rivals race to scoop up customers, the scandal has pushed politicians into action. Because when millions of drivers lose faith, lawmakers hear the anger at home. Capitol Hill wakes up. Lawmakers are thundering about auto safety and data privacy. But will they protect drivers or bow to the same corporations betraying you? Congressional hearings are being scheduled to drag GM executives into the spotlight. Senators are promising tougher safety oversight. Representatives are drafting bills to clamp down on how automakers collect and sell driver data. The scandal has created rare bipartisan outrage, with politicians from both parties sensing that voters want action. Yet the question hangs heavy. For decades, lobbyists from Detroit have shaped legislation in their favor, watering down penalties and softening oversight. Will this time be different? Or will GM's army of lobbyists once again blunt reforms? Drivers who endured defects and denials have reason to be skeptical. They have seen flashy hearings before, where executives said the right words, paid a fine, and moved on unchanged. Political grandstanding may fill headlines, but people want real safeguards. The anger of voters is louder than any lobbyist's whisper. Legislators know this scandal has cracked public patience, leaving no excuse for watered-down laws that fail to protect families. Still, the public mood is shifting. The combination of safety risks and privacy violations has struck a nerve deeper than past scandals. Voters are demanding more than apologies. They want protections written into law. And as the storm rages in Washington, the fallout is already hitting GM's own employees and dealers back home. Workers abandoned. GM's betrayal did not stop with customers. Dealers are collapsing, workers are bracing for layoffs, and executives are walking away richer than ever. The company's missteps have left dealerships with inventory they cannot move, vehicles that buyers no longer want, and warranty claims piling up faster than they can process. For small-town dealers, this is more than lost profit. It is existential. Entire businesses are at risk, and communities that relied on those jobs are watching lifelines disappear. Inside the factories, workers see a darker picture. Rumors of cutbacks are spreading. Hourly employees who once believed in GM's stability are preparing for pink slips. Union leaders are demanding answers, accusing the company of sacrificing working families while executives cash bonuses. Because even as GM faces lawsuits and losses, its top leaders continue to take home multi-million-dollar compensation packages. That contrast fuels outrage. While dealers close and workers tighten belts, executives keep their golden parachutes intact. The collapse ripples downward with brutal speed. Workers and dealers bear scars not created by their own hands. Their livelihoods vanish, while executives secure bonuses, creating a cruel divide between those who built a company and those who gutted it. For many, this double betrayal is unforgivable. Customers lost trust first. Now employees and dealers are realizing the loyalty they showed to GM is being repaid with abandonment. And the betrayal leads to one final question. After everything, can GM ever win you back? Can GM be trusted? The final question is not about GM's profits. It is about you. After everything exposed, would you ever hand them your money again? Loyalty is earned slowly, but lost in a flash. And GM has shattered the bond that once tied generations of families to its vehicles. They asked for your trust, your money, your patience, and your data. In return, they gave you defective cars, broken promises, and sold privacy. Some will say corporations can change. They will point to future models, new safety promises, or corporate pledges about transparency. But you know better. Trust is not rebuilt with advertisements or carefully written press releases. It is rebuilt with consistent honesty, accountability, and protection of the very people who keep the company alive. GM has a mountain to climb, and many believe it may never reach the summit. For you, the choice is simple but heavy. Do you stay loyal to a brand that betrayed you, or do you join the millions already turning to rivals? That decision is not just about cars. It is about sending a message. Customers are not expendable. Betrayal has a cost, and the power to collect it lies in your hands every time you choose where to spend your money. And with that choice looming, the scandal is no longer just GM's problem. It is a crossroads for the entire auto industry. GM's betrayal isn't just their problem. It's yours, mine, and everyone who trusted them. But you still hold the power. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit like and share your story in the comments. Your voice matters more than their silence. And if you want the truth others won't tell you, subscribe now, because this scandal is only the beginning, and the next chapter in the fight for your trust is already unfolding.